Hi, this is Angie, and in this video we're making a Halloween bricks quilt. We're using 7 fat quarters. I've got 2 green, 2 orange, and 3 purple patterns, and you can see those here. Okay, I've gone ahead and pressed each of the fat quarters, making it easier for us to use a rotary cutter, and I'm using the Creative Grids ruler along with a splash rotary cutter. Our small rectangles measure 2.5 by 5, and we're using jelly roll strips for our sashing. Okay, so let's cut the fat quarters. What I'm going to do first is trim the salvage, but I'm going to turn it over, put the salvage at the top. And then I'm just going to trim this right side so that I have a nice clean edge. I want to make sure I have it straight. And then I'm going to turn the fabric and cut at 5 inches. And I'm going to be cutting 3 strips at 5 inches. So I'm just going to line up the fabric here. Make sure it's straight at the 5-inch mark. And I will admit I did mess up. My ruler slipped on one of my fabrics, and I had to order more fabric. So there's the first one cut at 5 inches. We've got 2 more strips. What we're going to end up with is 6 rectangles that measure 5 by 10. So our first cut is at 5 inches. And like I said, we're going to be cutting 3 of those. So there's the second one. And then we've got 1 more. Okay, last one. Okay, so now what we want to do is, again, remove the salvage. So I'm going to turn this over so that the salvage is on the right, and I'm going to remove that. I'm going to get my smaller ruler here. It's a little bit easier to use. So removing the salvage, like I said, and then I'm going to cut this piece at 10 inches. So the final measurement is going to be 5 by 10. So I'm just lining that up with the 10, making sure it's straight on the bottom and to the left. And there's one of them. And then we got 1 more. So we get 2 out of each one of those, which 2 times 3 strips equals 6. So I'm just lining that up. Okay, so we have all 6 rectangles here. I've got 1, 2, and 3, and then 4, 5, and 6. And what I'm going to do is cut the rest off camera, okay? Now let's work with the jelly roll strips. Each jelly roll strip measures 44 by 2.5, and you're going to need 20 jelly roll strips just for the sashing. Then you're going to need more to cut out those small rectangles that measure 2.5 by 5. And let me show you why. What you're going to be doing is attaching one of the white triangles that measure 2.5 by 5 to your Halloween fabric. And each Halloween fabric is going to get a rectangle except for the last row. So I'm going to show you how to cut the jelly roll strips. And what you're going to do first, of course, is remove your salvage. That's always on all the fabric. Okay, it's taken me a minute to line this up. Okay, so salvage is removed. Now what we want to do is place the ruler on top at the 5-inch mark, and we're going to cut 35 of these that measure 2.5 by 5. Okay, so I'm going to do the rest of the cutting off the screen. I'm going to show you a couple more, and then I'll be back. Okay, we have all 7 patterns of fabric ready, and now what what we want to do is take one from each stack and set it aside. The bottom row of our quilt does not get the small rectangle because it gets sashing, and you'll see that as we go further. It'll make sense, okay? So next what we're going to do is take a 2.5 inch by 5 inch white rectangle, place it right sides facing together, and then we're going to go sew a 1/4 inch seam down the right hand side. So we're going to head over to the sewing machine so that you can get a look at that. Okay, so I'm at my sewing machine and I'm going to place the white rectangle right sides facing together, and I'm going to sew at a 1/4 inch seam. So I'm just going to place it here on my sewing machine. I am going to backstitch, even though some people say I don't have to. And I am going to chain sew. So when I get to the end, I'm going to raise my presser foot, and then I'm going to pull this back just a tad, and then I'm going to repeat with the rest of them. So I'm going to continue to sew these off of camera, and then I'll be back. I'm going to show you another one. Okay, I'm done sewing this row, and I'm going to separate them by cutting the threads with my little snippers here. And then after I'm finished all of them, then we're going to press our seams. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, once you've sewn your rectangles together, you want to set your seam and then press the seam to the dark side. So I'm setting the seam, and then I'm turning it over, and I'm pressing the seam to the dark side. And I'm going to do several of these so that you can get the hang of it. Okay, let's show you that. And then I'm going to move that out of the way, get the next one. So again, I'm going to set the seam, and then I'm going to press the seam to the dark side. This iron is super fantastic. It's really hot. I love it. I am using steam. I'm going to show you a few more. So setting the seam and then pressing it to the dark side. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to continue to iron these, or press them I should say, and show you that it's going to the dark side, the seam is, and then I will end this video here and you will pick up the next step in video number 2. And don't forget, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Here's all the ones I've done off screen so that we can move this quilt along. Show you a couple more. This is going to turn out beautiful. I just know it. Okay, see you later. Bye.